How do you know when it's time to go? The more real you get with yourself in your life, you're gonna hit the end of the road sometimes. And you're gonna realize you've outgrown where you're at. But when you've experienced lack in your life, abandonment, a lot of uncertainty, it can be hard to know when to walk away. I've been guilty of that plenty of times in my life. I'm Alexa Van, famous celebrity show host of the Bad Creatives podcast, where I talk about what I'm working on and what I'm working through as a weird little ADHD artist living in the world. It's so very bright in here. Okay. The bad creatives. Yeah. A lot of people like to glorify leaping into the unknown without any idea where you're going to land, whether it's new age spirituality or people with a hustle mindset. There's this idea that all you have to do is take the leap and then everything you need will magically appear. And although I do think sometimes we do need to take a leap without really knowing where we're going to land, we could still pack a bag to make sure that wherever we land on the other side isn't exactly the same thing that we just tried to get away from. So when I say pack a bag, if you knew you were going to take a trip into the great unknown, maybe you wouldn't know every single thing that you wanted inside of it, and you wouldn't really have room to carry all of that anyway. But there's no reason why you couldn't pack a bag of tools and things that would help you transition from your old life into your new one. We can set ourselves up to have more flex in our mind and in our bodies, because jumping into the unknown isn't the only hard part. It's once we get there, we're going to have to, stay there. I think a lot of people miss this step. There's this belief that if I'm ready, then everything will just magically work out. Being ready is more of feeling than a fact. Sometimes we do decide to be ready, that we're ready now. And sometimes we just get pushed into the unknown without a choice. So let's go ahead and throw readiness in the trash for now. Instead of feeling abundantly ready, we might just feel a dissonance. This feeling inside of us that something's off, that what we're doing isn't really working anymore, but you don't know exactly what would work. Often there's this feeling of how could I possibly know what I would want to move towards while I'm still surrounded by all of these things that don't feel like they're resonating with me anymore. If you're constantly surrounded by this older, outdated version of you in your life, how are you supposed to evolve past that? Well, you already did, and that's why you feel this way. In some places, we really can't stop playing out an old dynamic with certain relationships and certain jobs. We can come as far as we can on our own, but at a certain point, that's as far as we can go without just leaving the place altogether. So that's when that feeling of something being off can become really unbearable. You've fixed up your surroundings as best as you can to try to make it work, and it's just not it anymore. This is layered. I have wanted to quit my job so many times and felt like if I just quit, then I'll be fine. I'll figure something out. But I also didn't want to put the pressure on myself to have to figure it out, because what ended up happening is I just kind of reached for something to survive that ended up being a lateral move, and it wasn't really that different. I hadn't really set myself up to make sure that I didn't just kind of recreate the same situation at a different job. Sometimes it may seem easy, just quit the job. But unless you're trading that thing for something that is more aligned, you might just be, trading apples for oranges. Same thing goes with relationships, moving cities, all of that. You can take yourself out of the situation, you can remove the people, you can remove the place, but unless you change the foundation in which you are building upon, you will find yourself back in the same situation once again. There might be some exceptions to that, but I would say as a general rule, if we really haven't changed the part of us that keeps on finding ourselves back into these situations, if we really haven't rewired that or reworked that and given ourselves something else to move toward, we're still just playing through the same patterns. Once we find out how we can actually build and change the foundation that we're building on, now we're changing the whole frequency of our life. We're changing up the dance. This is how we move away from replaying karmic loops of being a victim and land somewhere where we can actually stay to build for our next chapter. How do we know if we're actually done? Sometimes it will be felt. It will be obvious. We are just beaten down, surrendered, exhausted. And even though this is a choice that we're making to be done with something, it doesn't always feel like a choice. It feels very much like I give up. This road can't go on any further and I have to throw in the towel. An example of this in my life, this may seem dramatic and obvious to some, but to others, it doesn't seem so obvious to them, and everyone else is looking at them like, hello. Yeah, when I was younger, I had a drinking problem, and I thought that I was just young and having fun. There did come a point in time where it became glaringly obvious that I had no choice but to make a change, unless I wanted to choose to essentially waste away into nothing and likely end up in a ditch. So again, I did have a choice, but I decided to live this glorious life. I hated my options because I didn't want to stop drinking, but I also thought, well, nothing could really be much worse than this, right? I didn't really know what to do or how to do it. I had a little bit to go on and I had very little to lose. So I was able to pack up my stuff, change locations so that I could get far enough away from the people around me who were influencing me at the time to attempt to start again and to try starting over in a way I had never tried before because everything that I had tried had not worked. So I was really willing to do things somebody else's way. And that willingness to be open and reject essentially everything that I had ever believed did completely change the foundation in which I built upon for the rest of my life. It still has, I really do still believe that changed the way that I was able to do things. How many times in our life have we felt we had to do something, that we couldn't possibly give it up, that we couldn't let it go? And then we look back and we're like, I didn't need that. I didn't need to hold on for so long. I could have let go and I would have been okay. But at the time, we're too in it to see clearly. I think this was probably one of the most dramatic surrenders in my life. However, others felt just as much, if not more significant, because it had a very different energy. This one it felt very life or death. But sometimes in life, we're faced with a choice where we're not going to die if we stay doing what we're doing. So how do we get ourselves to do it? The next surrender, it's more of like I've lost my way internally. This comes when we're working hard, we're gradually improving, life has been moving along, we're not stuck at a dead end, but we are no longer a match for the person or the environment that we're living in. However, we may not really want to admit that because maybe we worked really hard to build that environment. Maybe we really wanted to be with that person or to have that thing. We may have thought if I work really hard, then it will feel better, and that hasn't really been working anymore. And so now we're just like, well, great, what do I do? And it is a direct result of having worked so hard to get to where we are and to continue evolving and being honest with ourselves. That's why we grow out of things sometimes. It's kind of an interesting paradox. You would hope or think that your life and the things around you would evolve with you, but not everybody wants to. Not everybody wants to evolve in the same way as you, and not every environment is there for you at every point in your life. Not every job is going to be willing to expand and let you show yourself in this new way. So this isn't the same as being ungrateful or dissatisfied with what you have. You could look around you and maybe even feel the opposite, like, who am I to think that I have grown out of this? I have this amazing, beautiful life, and it looks so great in so many ways, and I worked so hard to get here. Why doesn't it feel right? It can be confusing, but really something's happened inside us. We've reached the end of the road, and now we are at a fork. We can choose to stay where we are which is going to stunt our growth and our evolution, or we can answer the call, which is sometimes sad, and it feels like there's more grief because what we're leaving behind isn't so bad. It's not the worst. We didn't wait until the wheels came off, like in my first example. There's things about it that are still good, maybe even things about it that are still working. So our choice here is, do I want to stop growing, or do I want to trust that there's just more out there that I haven't experienced yet, and life is taking me in that direction? An example of this in my life is, for a huge chunk of my 20s, I was dating one person, and we'd gone through so much together. We'd grown a lot. We had bad times and we had good times. And where we were at this phase of our relationship was not a bad time. Things were pretty good. This made it all the more confusing because I kept getting these intuitive messages. This isn't your forever person like you thought it was. Because on the outside, if anybody else saw us, they'd think we had a really perfect looking life. Things were good. They were pretty peaceful. But in order to maintain that peace, I was not able to keep growing anymore. I felt if I choose to stay in this relationship with this person, I'm kind of denying myself what is true inside me, which is that I deserve somebody who can meet me where I'm at now, and this person just isn't interested in doing that. And maybe when we met, we were like more of a match, but at some point I had gone in one way and they'd gone somewhere else. So this was not so in your face, like, oh, they're so horrible. They like cheat on me and now I'm going to leave. But it became really apparent to me, and my intuition was really loud, that, you know what, if I'm having these feelings, this isn't just about me. If my truth is that this is something I've outgrown, then everyone in my life deserves for me to be honest. This person deserves for me to be honest. That means there's somebody else out there for them. And the same could be true for a job. If you outgrow a job, there's somebody out there who really needs and wants the position that you have. And there's a different position or job or way of making income out there for you that's just waiting for you. It's ready and it's open. So we got to move along and keep it flowing. Being dishonest is not doing anybody any favors. I didn't know where I was going to land in either situation, especially with the relationship, because it was such a pivotal time in my life where I was like, finally things feel somewhat stable. Why would I shake it up? But what I learned is that I'll always land somewhere okay, because I didn't know where I was going to land, but truly things did fall into place. I reached out to a couple people. I found a place to stay. I moved out. It ended up being okay. I had help. I was ready for that because I'd been doing the work on the inside to believe that that was something I could trust. So that second example looks good on the outside, just doesn't feel good on the inside. Then the last leap is one where we don't choose it at all. It just happens to us. The rug gets pulled out from under us. We get pushed out. We get fired, whatever. It's not our choice on the outside. And so we feel, why did this happen? Maybe I'm a victim. Maybe I'm in shock. We are being invited to look at, hey, why did this happen? And what can I create now with this opportunity? Because it is an opportunity, even though it may feel like some kind of punishment or something bad happening, it's still an opportunity. Because you lost something, it opens up some space for something new. This is a pivotal moment where we can either choose to try to grab onto something that's exactly the same, or we could go, you know, I've always wanted to try this other thing, or there were things about that that I didn't like. So maybe now that this is open, I can try this other thing. If we work with it and we move with it instead of feeling totally victimized by it, it could end up being cool and opening up some doors for us. It all depends on your perspective and where your nervous system capacity is at the time. Because if you are really low and in a survival mode, you're likely just going to end up somewhere that you don't really feel like you chose at all. That is like the beauty of being an artist and of being a creative person, is we really can create something with anything that we're given. If we feel safe enough to do that, because some of us may be artists and we might not ever be creating anything at all because we feel too afraid to even like put the pen to the page or whatever your form of art is. The universe does give us a shove sometimes. I'm actually going through one of these right now, and this is like really vulnerable to open up about because I'm like so in it. But I really don't want to recreate the same situation that I've been in. There are certain patterns that I have been actively trying to dismantle in my life. I have found myself in better versions of them over and over, but still the same pattern is there. And I was really disappointed when this came up for me recently, and I was like, dang, I thought this was different, but did I really think it was different? I see this as an opportunity for me to be like, okay, I cannot keep doing this. I'm not going to negotiate with this situation. So it feels really boss level for me. What's going on is last year around this exact time, I had to move out of a place I was living. I got pushed. It wasn't my choice, but it wasn't like a bad situation. I trusted the universe, even though I was obviously disappointed that I had to move. I was gonna go stay with my sister, and it just didn't turn out to be the right move. And a friend offered for me to stay with her temporarily instead, which made more sense to me because my sister's felt really far. It was in Santa Monica. I've always been on the east side. And at the time, this was presented as mutually beneficial. She needed someone to watch her dog. She wasn't even there anyway. It was just an empty room. It didn't seem like I was putting anybody out. It seemed like a good situation for everybody involved, which brings me to the pattern that I'm dismantling, which basically is seeing past illusions. I went into the situation trying to be honest and upfront, and I wasn't really met with that. It has been walking on tiptoes, unclear communication, a lot of instability, no certainty whatsoever, a lot of confusion, and a mess. And I am not a victim because I looked at that and said, this is a weird transition period of my life. I'm willing to look past all those things and just trust that if I do my best to be honest, everything will be okay. This is a nice place and I'll just deal with the other stuff. And where I'm at with it now is the cost does not match the value. I definitely feel like my peace is worth more, and I can see past how nice something is on the outside to the fact that it's just not a match for me. I saw a bigger picture that I'm like, why do I want this? Why do we want what we want? Because I work at a part-time job that's really exhausting to me and burns me out so that I can afford this. And I don't know if I would need this beautiful resort feeling comfort so badly if I didn't feel so burned out from the job that I have working so hard to afford this. Do I want to create more of that in my life? Or do I want to just go, I don't like that. I want something else. That comes with knowing you're not in lack. Because if you have fundamentally a lack mentality, scrappy, survival, lack, rug getting pulled out, blah, 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 surviving, all these things happening to you, sometimes you really don't feel like you get to have advocacy and choice. And so I'm seeing how, I think I deal with a lot of things that for other people would be like a no fucking thank you right away. I think I kind of let those play out longer than somebody else might. And I'm seeing that in myself really clearly. It's one thing to see it. It's another thing to go, okay, well, what am I going to do about that? So I am designing a new life for myself. Over the last year, I've been working on this and I've been knowing this. I think I just thought I'd have more time. So I'm being given a bit of a boost because of some things that happened recently to put this more in my face and deciding to just make a really bold choice and a different direction. Something that I want to get across right now is you do not need anyone else to understand that. You don't need to explain that to anybody, especially if the people you're explaining it to are tied to what you're leaving and what you're walking away from. It's actually better if they don't get it because I think that proves that you're leaving something behind that is not a fit for you. This creates a tricky impasse where right now I'm trying to see how can I set myself up in such a way where I'm able to shift my priorities in my life to set myself up for something new while also not sacrificing the things that I do really need because I am autistic and I do want to take into account that if I'm always on guard or feeling really bad, that's like a contraction. It can be really hard to make a big bold jump from that place. That's where it's really important to be able to discern the difference between What do I want and what do I need? And what is a temporary discomfort versus just something that my ego is like, well, I should be able to have everything I want. And you will, but sometimes we take a step back so that we can take a leap forward. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to sacrifice, but to sacrifice means to make sacred. We sometimes sacrifice something for a time to set ourselves up better in the future. Don't get too stuck in that loop of being like, I'm always sacrificing myself all the time forever. It's supposed to be big picture. I know what I want most. So now my priorities fall into place around that so that I don't get too tripped up about what I want most right now. It should feel empowering. I have a fucking vision right now. And I know that to get from here to there, it's going to take change. It's going to take temporary discomfort. It's going to take me figuring it out as I go and be a little messy. And I can't do that if I'm still trying to carry and bear the weight of every other part of my life. So I'm going to have to put some things down and make space. And I've been making a lot of space, but apparently I need more space because I think I'm making a really big leap. I live in LA. I'm living this LA dream life in so many ways, but I've gotten to see through looking at other people who have a more exaggerated version of what I have. And I'm like, I don't want what you have. I don't want to be stuck working so hard all the time to be able to afford all my stuff. I want to be free because I do believe what you own owns you. I'm not going to negotiate with myself here. I know that to do something different, we have to be willing to feel uncomfortable and be adaptable. And so I'm setting myself up in a new way to make a change. I've done this before in my life. It has worked before in my life. I'm going to have to do some stuff that other people are going to look at and think is kind of crazy. But the people who are on my same life path, they're not going to think it's crazy. They're totally going to get it because they've done it too. How much can we prepare for a leap? Haha. If we know it's coming, we may think, let me strategize. And even though the rug seems like it's getting pulled out from under me a little bit in my situation right now, I've been preparing for this. I'm always moving towards something. That's just kind of how I am. Doesn't matter which situation you're in, the first one I gave, second, or the third. You can ask yourself, why am I here? And what do I really care about? Get really clear on where you want to go and your intention. Why are you here? Why is this happening? Maybe we don't know. I feel like a lot of times we do. And maybe that's where we have some faith or some trust, some room for just like the universe pushing us in a new direction. I know you have some kind of feelings of that because you're listening to this and you wouldn't be here if you didn't. Like I mentioned in the last example I was giving about what I'm moving through right now in my living situation and not wanting to put up with being in a dynamic I felt I had outgrown just because the place was nice. I feel like that's such a mirror for all these different areas of my life, not just that. And I really see how there's multiple ways that that is coming through in my life right now. However, the last year of my life, I have been totally reconstructing my insides. I have been deprogramming and I've been asking myself these questions that I haven't really known how to answer. And this felt for me like the click where it was like, right, this is as far as I can go this way. I really did need that time that I took the last year to be going through what I went through. I knew that what I had been doing in my life felt like it always had a bit of an edge of discomfort, and I was hoping to one day create a different life, but I felt like it was so far away. So now I feel like that timeline just became like really fast. But I've been preparing for this for a really long time. I've been packing my backpack, and this backpack for my leap, yeah, you could just be like, whatever I need is going to find me when I get there. You don't want to be scrambling like kind of how I felt last year when I landed at this place. So in my backpack, I got my values and my integrity, and that is my compass that's going to tell me where to go. We may think like we're never going to be able to make these big decisions without all these physical things. But at the end of the day, if you can move through really uncomfortable sensations in your body, you're pretty fucking free. Because that's what it all comes down to, is we don't want to feel things and we want to feel safe, obviously. So I've got a few other things in there that are like helping with the physical stuff. I'm not in a place where I'd be super duper screwed, but I'm setting myself up to end up in a place where maybe I can fill up some of those physical reserves a little bit better. feel like I've got the emotional and the spiritual stuff good to go in this metaphorical bag. Over the last year, because of everything that hasn't been working out for me, I have designed this bottom-up blueprint to life. I have created how to do things as a neurodivergent, sensitive artist, bottom up, not the neurotypical way. So that no matter what happens in our life, no matter where we go, you don't have to try to interpret it in a way that makes sense for you. You will have something solid to work from. When we don't have to mask anymore and we don't have to pretend anymore, that is really when we start seeing through illusions. Because I don't have any illusions up anymore. So now nobody can take advantage of me. I can see right through their illusions, their facade. It doesn't work on me anymore. That's the side of masking that I didn't know was going to happen. I just thought I was going to be more real. I didn't know that, oh, you can't get anything from me anymore. I'm free. I'm being real. I'm being myself. I don't care if I look stupid. Who cares if I look stupid? I have like 30 people who listen to my podcast. Are they over there thinking I look stupid? If they are, why are you doing that? Don't you have better things to do? Unmasking gives me this ability to be like, oh, nobody has anything to hold over my head anymore because I don't need them to see me in any kind of light. And I'm giving them the dignity of their own experience. They can think whatever they want. They're free in my book, at least with me. I'm not trying to get anything from them. I'm not trying to twist or turn or act a certain way to get something from somebody. God damn, has that cleared up space in my life? Makes things so much more clear. I've done this myself and I'm going to continue living this way. There's nothing wrong with you. Just want you to know that. Things aren't working for a reason. And it's not because you're not smart enough, and it's not because you're not working hard enough, and it's not because there's something everybody has that you don't have. You're just trying to work with tools that weren't made for you. It's like being left-handed and everyone forcing you to write right-handed and then making fun of you for having bad handwriting. There is a way that would work better for you. I'm not the kind of person who promises you, oh, your life is going to feel totally different if you do a 30-day course with me. That's not real. That's a scam, and I'm not trying to do that. But I'm letting you know I have opened up 6 months one-on-one coaching with me where we will move through these things and work these things out. You can have support if you want it. I used to do everything alone because I didn't trust anyone and I didn't want to rely on anybody. And it was really hard and it sucked really bad. And I'm really glad that I grew out of that and found that there's plenty of people out there who really are not trying to take advantage of me and who have so much to offer and share. And it has completely changed my life. So if it feels like a match for you, if it feels resonant, and if you hear what I say and you're like, yeah, the link will be in the show notes, or you could go to thebadcreatives.com to find out a little bit more about that in my website. At the end of the day, people don't really fuck with me anymore because it wouldn't work. I don't need anything from them. I don't want what they have. If you're done being exploited, if you're ready to rebel against a lie, let's party. I learned all this the hard way, so now you don't have to. The bad creatives, yeah. The bad creatives. The bad creatives, yeah.